How did Shell, once entrusted with the vast petroleum resources of Nigeria, transform from an oil giant into an alleged perpetrator of environmental degradation, human rights abuses, and a symbol of corporate exploitation? In 1937, Shell was granted a license to explore and exploit Nigeria's petroleum resources, marking the beginning of a relationship that would evolve into a tale of controversy, environmental devastation, and alleged corporate malfeasance. This video delves into the chapters of Shell's operations in Nigeria, uncovering a disturbing narrative of broken promises, environmental negligence, and avarice. The August breeze in 2011 carried with it a turning point, a gust that unfurled the harrowing tale of Ogoniland, like an ancient oracle revealing the sins of a titan. The United Nations Environment Programme's report painted a canvas of despair, and at the center stood Shell, a titan-turned tormentor. The narrative unfolded in the Delta's intricate waterways, where Shell's exploration had morphed into a macabre dance with ecological disaster. The spills, like malevolent specters, refused to be hidden. They crawled through creeks, invaded rivers, and tainted streams, leaving a trail of environmental devastation in their wake. As the pages of the INEP report turned, they revealed a litany of horrors, not mere occasional spills, but a systematic decimation of Ogoni's ecosystem. Hydrocarbons, the lifeblood of Shell's profit, had mutated into a poison, infiltrating every water body in Ogoniland. The groundwater, once a source of life, now bore the weight of an oil layer. A grotesque testimony to the extent of the violation. Benzene, a sinister carcinogen, seeped into the drinking water, its presence a stark 900 times above WHO standards. The air, once pure, now cradled benzene in its breath. The very soil, a cradle of life, was scarred, with hydrocarbons penetrating up to 5 meters deep in 49 observed places. UNEP's revelations weren't just about environmental plunder. They unraveled a narrative of human suffering. Ogoni's inhabitants, generations exposed to chronic oil pollution, bore the scars in their lungs, water, and land. The report condemned Shell for failing to meet environmental standards, an oil mogul thriving on double standards. Its operations painted with the brush of negligence, but the horror didn't end with pollution. It reached its zenith in the execution of Ogoni leaders, Kensaro Wiwa and his compatriots Sunday Dabi Nordu-Iwo, Daniel Gaboko, Paul Levera, Felix Nuate, Baribor Bera, Baranan Kaibal, and John Kapun became martyrs in the fight against Shell's reign of environmental terror. As the world digested the damning report, a question echoed through the international community: how could a corporation, once entrusted with a nation's resources, become an agent of ecological apocalypse? The shadow of Ogoni loomed large, a testament to the grim reality that unfolded when corporate might eclipse the well-being of a people and their land. Shell's actions in Ogoniland, etched in the ink of tragedy, stood as a stark reminder that the repercussions of greed are far-reaching, staining not just the land but the very fabric of humanity. Despite claims of transparency, Shell's actions speak louder than words. The 2011 Bonga FPSO spill serves as a test case, where opacity shrouds the cause, impacts, and chemicals used in the cleanup. Shell's lack of transparency extends to the daily extraction figures, raising suspicions of hidden agendas and potential theft in the oil and gas sector. The spotlight shifted to Bodo and Ogoni, the litmus test of Shell's transparency claims. In 2008-2009, the company reported 1,640 barrels of crude spilled, a narrative contested by Amnesty International, which painted a canvas of spilled barrels ranging from 103,000 to 311,000. Expert voices like Professor Richard Steiner, added layers to the drama, estimating volumes at a staggering 250,000 to 350,000 barrels. People were now questioning every word, and wondered if Shell's transparency claims were a mere facade. The Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative (NADI) audits added another act to the play, exposing the opaque nature of Shell's operations. Daily crude oil losses, ranging from 130,000 to 300,000 barrels, created a fog of mystery, a narrative gap where the story of what happened between the wells and distribution points remained untold. The World Bank's report painted a reassuring picture of decreasing gas flares in 2009. However, Shell, the orchestrator of this fiery ballet, contradicted the narrative, revealing a 33% surge in their flares in 2010. Amidst the flames, Shell, a maestro of contradictions, claimed to have reduced its carbon emissions, presenting a modest figure of 6.1 million tons of CO2 equivalent. The audience, skeptical and hungry for truth, dissected the narrative. Shell asserted that non-routine flaring at upstream facilities accounted for 35% of their gas flaring in 2011, while the remaining 65% was attributed to the lack of equipment to capture gas produced with oil. Yet, a discordant note reverberated through the auditorium as Shell pointed fingers at Nigeria's security situation and government funding, conveniently blaming external factors for routine flaring. The irony wasn't lost on the discerning audience. Security concerns didn't hinder Shell from extracting crude oil. It only hindered the company from ceasing routine gas flaring, as the gas flares painted the night sky in hues of orange. Shell emerged as an active impediment to reform in the oil and gas sector. The Nigerian government's new oil sector bill proposal faced opposition from Shell's vice president for sub-Saharan Africa, Anne Picard. Her warning echoed through the corridors of power, a stark declaration that Shell would not accept any law against its interests. WikiLeaks, the whistleblower of secrets, unveiled a clandestine world where Shell possessed intelligence on militant activities and business competition in the Niger Delta. The leaked cables pulled back the curtain on Shell's intimate knowledge of the Nigerian government's vulnerabilities. Shell's grip reached the heart of governance, with Picard revealing that the government had forgotten that Shell had eyes and ears in every relevant ministry. In a twist of fate, a former Shell director now occupied the position of the Minister of Petroleum in Nigeria. This strategic move blurred the lines between corporate interests and political power. The audience gasped at the revelation that Shell, once reliant on low-level officials with concealed recorders, now had direct access to the ministry's inner workings. Shell, faced with the damning legacy of environmental degradation, chose to play a shell game, a cunning maneuver to shift attention while perpetuating a legacy of exploitation. The backdrop for this act was the sale of oil acreages in the western Niger Delta, a move that set tongues wagging and speculation ablaze. Was this a genuine attempt at accountability, a way for Shell to wash its hands of past sins? Or was it a calculated gambit, a strategic exit to evade the mounting pressure of environmental responsibility? Like vigilant sentinels, oil watchers wondered whether this marked the beginning of Shell's retreat from the scenes of past ecological crimes. Was the company attempting to escape the looming liabilities that clung to its name like an unshakable shadow? Analysts, their eyes sharp and discerning, speculated that the sale was a diversionary tactic, a smokescreen to deflect attention from the environmental devastation left in Shell's wake. Questions lingered as the company seemingly retreated into the deeper offshore, where the waters ran dark, and the watchful eyes of local communities grew distant. Was Shell attempting to exploit areas with less oversight, escaping the vigilant gaze of those who had borne the brunt of its past misdeeds? The theater of environmental exploitation appeared to be shifting its stage, but the players remained unchanged. Yet, even as Shell seemingly relinquished some of its oil fields, the company retained a grip on the crude handling facilities, positioning itself as a landlord at the crude evacuation gate. The crude handling tariff, a crucial element of an operator's economics, ensured that Shell continued to profit. Irrespective of the changing scenes on the oil field, the regime of pillage, it seemed, persisted, with smaller companies now stepping onto the stage. To face the consequences, Shell, the mastermind, moved into a new level of exploitation, hiding behind the facade of change. While orchestrating a grand shell game, the sales of oil fields became a strategic maneuver. A chess move in a game where the pawns changed, but the mastermind remained unchanged. As the spilling spree continued, an unsettling realization hung in the air. The legacy of Shell in Nigeria remained an unyielding force. The cries for accountability echoed through the impacted communities, now little more than empty shells of their former selves. The phrase "how Shell stole Nigeria" took on new dimensions. Not just a reference to past transgressions, but a commentary on a company's ability to morph and adapt, leaving destruction in its wake while eluding the grasp of justice. The story of "How Shell Stole Nigeria" is a haunting reminder of corporate greed, environmental exploitation, and the devastating impact on local communities. As the battle between Shell and activists rages on, the true cost of the company's actions becomes clearer. The phrase echoes in the corridors of environmental justice, urging the world to confront the stark reality of multinational corporations, prioritizing profits over people and the planet. The legacy of Shell in Nigeria is one of shattered landscapes and broken promises, a cautionary tale for those who believe in the accountability of corporate giants. So, this was all for today's video. Subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates from our channel.